This is the special committee on energy, and I am committee chair Tony Frazier. First of all, clerk, please call roll.
Chairperson Frazier,
Attendance.
Vice Chairperson Corona, Senator Eltief,
Present.
Senator Estes,
Present.
Senator Vandepew,
All members are present. The meeting of the Special Committee on Energy comes to order on Friday, June 22nd, 2012 at 11 a.m. The committee will be hearing Senate Bill 1340 that has been presented by Senator Corona. Senator Corona, will you please present your bill?
Chairman, committee members, thank you for allowing me to present. Senate Bill 1340 is one that I'm sponsoring. This bill would create an energy efficiency council that would collect information and create and promote programs in the state of Texas. It would also develop a website that would create more transparency and improve the communication regarding our state programs on energy efficiency. As you all have noted, state buildings would be held to a higher standards in regards to the design and efficiency for the construction. Lastly, we would provide municipalities with a framework for how to promote energy efficiency and economic efficiency within our communities. Energy efficiency programs are something that I think is very important for our state. This conversation is ongoing and will continue to persist. And I think it's necessary that we support these programs so that in the future our children will have a better state, better environment, just a better future by making this up in the right direction.
Members, do you have any questions for Senator Corona? I, like all Texans, want a well-functioning electric market, one that encourages economic development for our cities and that creates a better life for our citizens. However, Senator Corona, I'm not convinced that Senate Bill 1340 is the way to get there. I'm very curious about how much creating this oversight committee will cost and where that money will come from.
For the council that you're referring to, it would consist of members of already existing state agencies. We would not bring in new people. It's people who are already employed in state agencies that have to do with energy efficiency, and this would just bring them together, keep them at the same table to open
Senator Corona,
communication.
we can't hear you. Will you hold the mic closer to your mouth?
Sorry.
Thank you.
The council would actually just consist of members of already existing state agencies. We are not bringing in new people, new staff. This is just a way to bring all the people to the same table. They're already having their own different conversations. This is to bring them together and unite them as Texans to promote energy efficiency programs and develop new regulations. Is that any question?
That brings up another question for me, Senator Corona. At a time where we are experiencing many budget cuts and many employees are being laid off in state agencies, that plan sounds well and good, a little touchy-feely. Where really are there employees that can maintain that, since we are having so many budget cuts right now and losing employees currently? Where is that time coming from? Where is that money coming from?
I think that this is definitely something that we could maintain. We are having to cut budgets, but by bringing, this would just provide more opportunities for people in this field to continue work, to continue to develop themselves, while at the same time promoting the greater good of Texas.
Do any of the other members have questions for Senator Cronin? At this time, we'll open the floor to testimony.
Hello, Senators. My name is Rebecca Shaw, and I'm from the Environmental Defense Fund, where we take on the most urgent environmental threats to preserve the natural system on which all life depends. So you know how everyone says the slogan, everything's bigger in Texas, right? Well, guess what? So is the amount of energy that we use, which is causing an overwhelmingly amount of pollution. Now, based on research, the ways that buildings are being operated, they're consuming large amounts of energy as well as natural resources, which is causing harmful effects on the environment, like waste, air, water, and indoor pollution, heat islands, as well as storm water runoffs. And due to these, it is ultimately causing effects on humans. It's increasing the loss of resources, as well as environmental degradation and global warming. If we don't pay attention to what's going on now and make a change today, we're going to be in grave trouble for our future, and when we realize it, we won't be able to turn back the hands of time. Now, you're wondering, I'm sure you're all wondering, what are we going to do about it? Do we have any strategies, any ideas of where we're going to go? We do. We can develop regulatory business models that make energy efficiency profitable and create a market, market-driven. Slowing down natural resources can only equal lowering pollution. Imagine on a larger scale the effects of reduced pollution, cleaner air, sustainable energy. For us as a people, a community, a state, the quality of life goes up. Think about your children. Think about your children's children. Who wouldn't want the best for our lives and our environment? Venting and flaring of natural gas from oil and gas activities are actually contributing to ground level ozone, smog, and toxic air pollution. We have a chance to make a large impact today that will make a difference for our future. Yes, as we've heard earlier in the press release, that we want everyone to make their own individual contribution, but collectively, this is what we want to do together if we get this bill passed. Thank you for your time.
I have a question for you.
Currently, anyone else has a question? You have a question? Atif, you would like to ask a question?
Can you please let me know how can this specifically in terms of policy put together, can you go into a little bit more detail, how involving utility companies that were as a business. The goal is to, if you talk about energy efficiency specifically, right, that would basically drive down the profit margins of the business. So if it's a concern of consumers, why not target consumers, and why involve utility companies and the government? Why not do that in the private sector?
I'm sorry, can you restate your question again?
Why is the environmental defense group being focused on the energy, on the policymaking group, when in fact it could be more effective than targeting the citizens directly in the private sector and not through the government, and affecting also the profit margins of businesses which also create jobs, that has more direct impact. Well, that's why I'm saying when you target different groups instead of targeting policymakers.
So you're asking me why aren't we talking to the community?
I'm sure that you are, but why not put more focus with targeting them instead of having it within a group that, because you also, for example, the cap and trade is basically eventually an open way to create market incentives for utilities that could be having green pollution and such.
Okay, I think that is a great question, and my colleague will address that in just a moment.
I don't have a list of names. Citizen who traveled the furthest. Citizen who traveled the furthest would like to speak first.
Hello. Hello. My name is Todd Wickersham, and I represent, I'm the president of Businesses for an Energy Efficient Texas. Also, I'd like to clarify my colleague's former statement that the speaker who's going to speak after me has more expertise in that area specifically, and will be able to answer your question more thoroughly. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what BEAT is, Businesses for an Energy Efficient Texas. It's a participant-sponsored coalition that, in which businesses from all across the state have pooled resources and pooled their time, their people, and their focus to, in order to bring further attention to the concerns regarding businesses, how environmental concerns affect businesses. Traditionally, businesses are anti-legislation that would pose any form of regulation on them. However, we have separate motivations that we feel are more important to address than simply that way of thinking. Energy efficiency is pro-business. The biggest companies in Texas now have more at stake. They can garner more of a profit by creating energy efficiency processes on their own. They can produce more for less. Some examples of this already are HEB and Texas Instruments, who already have boards who are concerned with this. Now, they've already invested their time, their money, and their people power, but the way to make this more uniform across the board is to provide some sort of reward for the businesses that would, on one hand, encourage these businesses to change their ways and become more environmentally friendly, but then also to encourage others to do the same. Because once one business figures out a way to reduce their costs and to benefit the environment, then it's easier for the rest of the companies to adopt these new regulations. We are invested in profit because we're businesses, but we're also invested in our customers. And if they aren't happy with how we operate, then we won't get their business. We're also invested in Texas and the future of Texas and the possibilities and opportunities that come with energy efficiency. We have responsibility to our state to be held accountable and to hold ourselves accountable for what we're doing to our environment. Hopefully we can do this ourselves, but if you take a look at history, that hasn't been, you haven't been doing enough. And I think that's clear with the state of our environment, as our former, our experts have already explained. The world is heading toward a point where fossil fuels won't sustain us any longer. So this isn't a argument on if this is necessary now. It is. It will at some point become necessary for us to change our ways and find alternative sources of energy. We need to do that before crunch time. We need to figure out how to do that and prepare ourselves for the time when we don't have any other options. I'd like to address some parts of the bill that are especially beneficial for businesses. One being that the terms used to explain the cap and trade segment of the bill are permissive. It is not mandated, and it is an opportunity for businesses who believe that they can and want to reinvigorate their companies to become more energy efficient. and the taxpayers to make this a better plan for everybody. If we're prepared to compromise for Texas, we also want everyone else to know what we're doing. And the best way to do that is to renovate the state buildings, the Capitol buildings, the universities, and show the rest of the country what we're prepared to do. This will of course come from our state budgets and will have to be allocated in a way that we see fit. Whether this bill passes or not is not in the grand scheme of things the most important thing. The most important thing is that this issue is being talked about, that it can help everybody, it can help the businesses. And if we, this is an issue that needs to be discussed and talked about intelligently and paid attention to. So the right thing to do in this situation is not just to shoot down this idea because it might cost some money. If you think about the trajectory that Texas is going, in 40 years, it's just gonna get worse as the future goes on, and we can't wait any longer. The burden is both on the taxpayers, the burden is on the state, and we recognize that it's going to be hard for some people to make these decisions. We understand that some people can't afford to make these changes, and we need to work with them. But we can't afford as a state any longer to affect significant environmental policy changes. Thank you.
Mr. Wickersham.
Yes. Yeah, sir.
Much of this bill is focused on government buildings, and I know that you touched on the fact that taxpayers will be footing that bill. As you know, I have been a champion in wind energy production in my region, and if you take a drive out to the hill country, you will see wind farms on my constituents' land. I don't understand why this bill needs to be addressed in this way when I feel that we could funnel a lot of this through resources that are currently existing. What is your thought about that?
My thought specifically about the state building renovations and why the funds allocated should be put toward alternative energy sources.
My question is, why do you feel that this bill is important when it could be funneled into other agencies that are already existing in other programs that are currently available?
I understand. I believe that, of course, more investment needs to occur in alternative energy sources, but this is in fact doing so. I believe that by imposing more regulations on our businesses, but including the businesses in the discussion, will prompt our businesses, for which I speak, to find other ways to fulfill our energy needs. So it will in turn lead us to turn to alternative energy sources such as the wind industry. But also the state buildings are something that are in existence and are a symbol of Texas and our commitment to it. So if we focus on these state buildings and the fact that a complete overhaul is necessary, but this is a good starting point, then I believe that's the most important thing we could do right now.
I believe, Sarah Estes, did you?
Yes, I have a question.
Mr. Wickersham, thank you for coming and testifying today. I just have one question. You touched on this a little bit, but I'd like a little bit more clarification. How exactly is this bill going to help businesses, since explicitly it only deals with the renovation of existing state buildings or the construction of new state buildings, and it only suggests guidelines, perhaps, for dealing with businesses or suggesting any sort of cap and trade program? So how exactly is this helping businesses when nothing concretely deals with businesses?
Again, that I believe touches more on my point that that we need to take responsibility for ourselves, for our companies, and take a look at the bigger picture, because it is good. I believe that part of the bill, the fact that it's permissive, that it's not regulated, it's not mandated that we have to do this, is a way to get businesses who may be on the fence to pay attention to this issue, and also to give it an opportunity for those businesses who do feel strongly about it, a way for them to gain benefits such as gain incentives. It really is an incentivization for businesses to become more energy efficient, and I believe that is set in the right direction.
So just to clarify, you're saying that this would be a voluntary effort, that this bill would provide a framework for businesses to voluntarily step up and take on their share of the burden.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I don't feel that anyone is preventing business from becoming more efficient on their own. So I'm unsure why we need legislation to regulate when each business can choose their own internal operations. And I feel that many government buildings that are being built presently, take the Austin City Hall, for example, citizens felt that was important, and so they voted for a bond package to build a new city hall that was energy efficient because that was important to that city. Don't you think that through the natural course of people becoming aware of these types of programs, that will naturally happen in the market?
It may naturally happen, but I don't believe that we can afford to wait. I think that we need to stimulate this on our own, and I believe the best way to do that is to bring attention to it and to set up the framework and enable them to do so. Did that answer your question, or were there parts of it that I missed?
I'm satisfied with that answer.
Thank you.
Will be testifying next.
I don't have a list of names. Do we have any citizens?
Hello, Senators. I am Laura Dahl, representing ERCOT. In case you don't know who ERCOT is, we're the ones that keep your hair straightener on, your air conditioner on, and your cell phones charged. We are the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, and we manage the electric power to 23 million Texas customers. Who knows what a rolling blackout is? Okay. It is actually an effort to lighten the load of the grid rather than just cutting your lights off for kicks. 23 million customers rely on the 40,000 miles of power line. So that's very strenuous on the grid. So in an effort to let customers know about this, we've created an app that any of you are welcome to download that will let you know where we are, or as far as how many megawatts we've used that day. And it's pretty accurate all the way down to the minute. Okay, so even though I work on a state level, I think it's important because I represent people on a personal level as well. I've got 23 million customers. This includes babies. Babies rely on me, and that's very important. So when Yuri came up and represented her case, I understood. When young Molly came up and represented her case, I understood. Referring back to the blackouts, we have recently released an article, and we're presently looking at blackout avoidance measures so that in the future we won't have them. These measures will cost billions of dollars. So if we take 23 million customers and divide $1 billion among 23 million customers, that includes babies, let's go back to that. That's $43 per customer. For Yuri's family, that will be $301 because it's her children plus herself. Okay. So I think that before we turn on the light bulb in the room, we should turn on the light bulb in our heads. Any questions?
I don't really understand. Questions from others?
Senator Corona, you look interested. And I'm interested too, so it's okay.
Thank you for coming and speaking to me, I really appreciate that. I definitely understand and acknowledge the fears and concerns that a lot of the people that you represent are having right now. But, I think when it comes to energy efficiency, and speaking of Dolly, who testified earlier, Molly, who testified earlier, I'm sorry. I think in regards to health, that this is an important measure because we're concerned with the future and the people that we're representing. It's important to recognize that health is a big factor, and if children can't go outside to play without getting sick, that affects their whole health, because this country, we're dealing with a lot of issues regarding children's health and ability to be active, to stay healthy. And I think this bill would be one step in the right direction, and we each have to really just make a sacrifice for the success of our state.
I agree with you completely.
Senator Estes, please.
Thank you. I just have a small question. What parts of the bill exactly do you see helping the most? Which measures are you most in favor of?
Well, I am most in favor of the capping or the trading cap system. I know that it's, not mandated, but I think it'll help because, like I told you, I'm the grid. So we're looking at the load that we're using every single day. Now, if some businesses are interested in cutting back on the amount of energy or anything that they're using, I'm interested too, because that lightens the load on the grid. The blackouts only come when there's too much going on and we need to, roll it down a little.
So, following that, because this is a cap and trade program, there could feasibly be businesses that choose just to pay the fines and buy more credits. And that won't necessarily, there could be a shift in who's using more or less power, who's putting a lighter or heavier burden on the grid, but not necessarily institute any sort of changes that overall lessen the load. So what I'm saying is, the cap and trade program that you're in favor of, it's not mandatory, and it doesn't necessarily provide the kind of changes that you're looking for. Would you still be in favor of it then?
I would be in favor of it because I believe in the human heart. And I think people would be interested in lightening the load just a little bit. There's going to be that one person ahead of that company that looks at the cap and trade and says, you know what, we can do this. And they'll do it. And maybe their friends will start doing it too because they see the positive effects of it. Something that's...
Can you speak up a little bit?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, something that's on the app, you have to download the app to see this, but it shows us the load and it also says, normal conditions, conservation encouraged. It simply asks everyone to turn their thermostat up by 2 degrees. If this room went up right now by 2 degrees, I don't know if we would really feel it. That's simple enough in a household for everyone to do. In the morning, I turn mine up 10 degrees. So at night, I'm at 75. In the morning, I'm at 85. You can do 2 degrees. I think you all can do 2 degrees.
When you're talking, I really need you to speak up. I have difficulty hearing women's voice.
Here I am.
What I'm hearing is about conservation, and that is a personal choice, and I feel that most of us do conserve energy in every way that we can. And I know recently in the state capitol, there was a renovation that was done, and all the light bulbs were changed, the thermostat has been turned up. But what I'm reading here is talking a lot about, the thing that concerns me here is requiring state buildings to do more than we have done already. What is your suggestion as far as state buildings? Are there any suggestions besides conservation that you could suggest a mandate?
First and foremost, I would like to thank the state buildings for already taking measures, because that's a very important step. And I'm not 100% sure right now exactly what else the state building can do. I think it's very important that you guys have already began to set a model for, your state.
We have another question from Senator Riss.
Ms. Dahl, so as we heard in the press release, the business community is very eager to use the measures in this bill to expand the number of businesses we have in Texas, to bring in a higher population of people to work in Texas, to encourage our economy along. Now, if we're still looking at energy efficiency, that is reducing a little bit of energy for each person that is in Texas to overall have a smaller load on your grid, if we bring in more people, we're still putting a lot of pressure on the grid. So how do you feel about those sorts of measures? If we bring in, if these measures in the bill could potentially bring in more people to, even if they're using smaller amounts of energy, they're bringing in more people to bring in energy that's on your grid. We're not really getting much done, are we?
Well, we're not sure. This is because even though more people will be coming in, it could be that they come in with, new ideas and technology that could begin to lighten the grid. We're trying to open it up for, businesses and stuff. Or we're trying to open up jobs in this, eco-friendly energy efficiency market. And I'm pretty sure if they're coming in with that in mind, they're coming in with a good model that can begin energy efficiency, even if in the beginning you take a hit. I'm just concerned about my grid, and I think that, or I believe that, again, in the human heart, and that they will be concerned about the grid.
That's a lot of uncertainty, but I applaud you for your optimism.
Thank you, Ms. Dahl.
Good morning. I'm Stefan. I'm from Rebound Energy. I feel like you would know me personally because the windmills we were talking about earlier, I actually helped with that. Like, you bought my company, a good majority of them. Okay, so I just want to share with you my values of my company. It's integrity, sustainability, and results. Customers, society, employees, and investors will measure us by what we deliver. We relentlessly pursue outstanding results that meet our company's goals and objectives. I know you're probably wondering why I'm sharing this with you, but it's because it's the customers, you all, everyone else, who need to have that better standard of living. So if we were to expand on this new energy efficiency, continue growing off of it, like you said, we have some already, it's going well, but if we expand on it more, we'd have to open up a new market, and this is cause Texas to adapt, causing more open job markets, not only for the white collar, like they mentioned before, but blue collar. And then I want to go back to that standard of living. I heard that story about Molly. I talked to her and her mother, and then I was like, the standard of living that's really good, that wants to be able to attract those more families to Texas. We want to build that business, build the technology, have the technology expand, whether it be the health field and the energy that we produce. And then when you mentioned, I think you were asking about the stress on the grid before. Well, if we have more, let's say we have more windmills. So if we have more windmills, we're not using so much of we're using a lot of electricity, so we're not using so much of like the coals and stuff like that. We're using more natural resources. So it's gonna reduce some of the stress on the grid. If that clears anything up a little bit for you. So, is there any more questions any time?
Message?
You mentioned several times, first of all, thank you for coming and speaking to us.
Thank you for having me.
You mentioned a few times that the measures in the bill would support jobs, create more white-collar and blue-collar jobs. How exactly do you see that happening when the bill only addresses directly the renovation or construction of energy efficient state buildings and doesn't have anything else that's very mandatory in it.
Okay, so you're asking, can you say that again? You're asking how is it gonna?
How exactly is it going to create jobs, like you promised?
Okay, so, for example, let's say we're gonna rebuild a little bit on UT, or like any of the capitals, on capital. So we need to build it up to standard. So we wanna go green, let's hire a company who's a green company. We need more people to do the business, we need to train them, so we're gonna have those people training. And we're gonna have to bring some people in, more experts, maybe into the state.
I'm going to have to interrupt you. We already have companies that do that. You know, we see Austin City Hall, it was built years ago. Those companies are already in existence. We're not creating new jobs. Those are jobs that are already in existence.
Is that the only building though that needs to be like refurbished?
Well, no, not necessarily, but
So there's gonna be more buildings in the future, right now, like we're still building new buildings.
but concerning state buildings, there's a finite number of state buildings that either need to be constructed or repaired. There isn't going to be a sudden explosion of government buildings all over the place that would require these kinds of jobs.
It would be more that, so yes, to say buildings first, because we have to be the example, we have to like show others how it goes. And as soon as we state buildings show it, and if they start going on with it, then everyone's gonna trickle down and go with it too, like if it's the state buildings first.
I'll have to interrupt you again, I'm sorry. Do you have any numbers on exactly how many businesses would follow the state buildings, you know, would say, oh, look, those energy efficient state buildings are such a great idea, let's do that for all of our buildings as well. Do you have any numbers on exactly how many buildings, exactly how many jobs will be created from this bill?
Over 100, so far, over 100,000 jobs have been created so far, just by like trying to go green throughout the year, so it can only go up from there.
Thank you.
No problem.
Are there any other questions? Representatives? Thank you, Mr. Stephen.
Jim,
Thanks,
7?
Thanks, Jim. Who else would like to testify? Please come forward, state your name, who you're with, and whether you're for or against this bill.
Hi, good morning, Chair, and senators of the committee, members of the committee. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Josefina Ibarra, and I am here along with a colleague of mine today on behalf of the Texas Association of Business. Our businesses care about our state's rivers, creatures, people, and the environment.
Will you please state whether you're for or against?
I'm getting there. We're against the bill, and have already taken steps in an effort to reduce our impact. So, you know, we're clearly against the bill because we're already, some of our businesses have already taken the initiative and have bought hybrid vehicles and fuel efficient vehicles that are being used in their businesses. And some of them have volunteer programs where they have planted since 2005 over 1,500 trees in Texas. And there are some businesses that have gone as far as retrofitting some of their buildings, using fuel efficient light bulbs and better insulation and things of that nature. What our concern with having a council that would be established with this bill is that we don't know what the cost may be and where the funding for that money may come. It would probably more likely come from the state budget, which during the last session had I believe, a $27 billion deficit. And state budgets, you have taxpayers who have to make up for whatever monies that's missing. And unfortunately, we as businesses will be forced to pass the cost on to our consumers, because if you have to raise taxes to make up for this, to pay for this council. And unfortunately, you know, we would pass the cost to the widow and now a single mother of 6 who works 2 jobs and, you know, she's the only breadwinner in her home. I ask you today to reflect upon the following. Is this bill efficient for our state's progress? And we as representatives of Texas's businesses do not think SB 1340 is fair for business, and it is ultimately unfair for Texas's hardworking families. Thank you.
I have a question for Senator. Thank you.
Hello. I did some research on the Texas Association of Business, and on your website you say you support the creation of jobs, support economic growth, you support the development of energy and nutrition, and you want information from the government. You really like that. And you say that on your website, you want more information from the government and you want more transparency. And this bill says that. What is your position on that? And also, you also support the creation of jobs and economic growth. So you think that with new measurements, that this bill will create new measurements that will support that?
Well, because we don't know, like I said, the cost of the council. Our concern is more regulation and, you know, more bureaucracy being created with this bill.
Yes, but previously we have also, Senator Corona has said that there's a high possibility of getting individuals that are already work in that area, and we're just creating them together. So you wouldn't be, yes, it would be, it's a minimum cost, according to what I read from the bill. It's minimum cost. But we also have, like I said, we're giving you the information that you want. We're creating economic growth, because research has also shown that if you do stuff like this, you're creating economic growth. It's one, you know, I don't see how it affects the small businesses per se.
You know, like I said, someone mentioned earlier, was testifying that, you know, fundings may in fact come from the budget. And if we don't know exactly how much funding is required for this council, then it's something that our businesses are not able to agree with, because they've already been working hard on
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'd like to maybe address the question to Senator Corona, who might can help answer this question. Thanks. I have read numbers such as $950,000 to create the commission and $400,000 to annually fund the commission. That's not including the website and all the stuff that people have suggested to be part of that. Are those numbers true, and where from such a tight budget will that money come from?
Well, to answer your question, for the council, we wouldn't be paying their salaries. It would just be them coming together. So other than the cost of travel for them to meet up, there would be no extra cost for the council. Does that answer your question?
I'm satisfied with that question. Thank you, Ms. Corona. Excuse me, Senator Corona, I think has a question.
Thank you. And I appreciate the work that the Texas Business Association has done already, the stuff that y'all are currently taking. And I just want to know your thoughts on the fact that, what do you think of the fact that in the future, the benefits that people for customers to have in the future from energy efficiency programs that would reduce their bill later?
Well, I mean, I think everyone in this room agrees that energy efficiency is the way to go. However, that we're doing it step by step. And that's how our businesses have voluntarily been doing it, with their fuel efficient vehicles and being involved with the communities and planting a great number of trees. I mean, we really think this bill is, a very drastic step, We could just take a smaller step toward accomplishing that goal, and it's something that our businesses right now are currently doing.
Okay, well, to address what you just said, the bill would provide a framework, so this would not mandate businesses to necessarily take those measures, but this would provide a framework for communities that want to move in that direction, to save money in the future and help the environment, so.
And the question is,
Considering that one portion of the bill, the part that deals with cap and trade, energy efficiency among small businesses or even larger businesses, considering that that part of the bill is not mandatory, it's permissive, it's purely setting up a voluntary, suggested framework for communities to set up their own organizations that would follow those measures. Your argument doesn't seem to have much traction here, just because it's, you are already voluntarily doing this. This isn't an imposition that we're saying. We're saying this is a framework that we're providing so that you can continue doing what you're doing, and maybe, if you'd like, coordinate with other businesses in a more organized fashion so you can get even more done. So how would you address that?
well, I mean, like I said, our concern is more like the cost of setting up this council and running it every year. Because I know you all stated that it's optional, but will in the future this option become a required thing? So.
Thank you, Ms. Amara.
Thank you,
Are there
everyone.
any other questions?
I would comment for Senator Farmer.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Barr.
Thank you.
Senator Corn, I'd like to address that the Small Business Association just addressed the fact that since the market is already doing it organically, is doing this on its own, please consider, the role of the government in terms of stepping in something that's already happening. I feel like there is movement that the sector and the market knows what it has its own incentive, of course, to cut its own cost in terms of energy efficiency with their consumption rate. And I think it's clear that, speaking on behalf of small business especially, that they're really implementing these measures, and they're cautious, especially about having more regulations on the backbone of America, which are small businesses. Please take that into consideration.
Whoever is testifying next, please come up, state your name, who you're with, and your position.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. Hi, my name is Gabriela Garcia, and I am as well representing the Texas Association of Business. The major problem here is that there's no clear standards.
Please state your position.
Oh, I am against the bill.
Thank you.
There are no clear standards of what needs to be done, and does not state how much money will we need to enforce this bill. The resolution here is that we need to research the subject more before we make the next step and get more into depth. During the last legislative session, the state ran a $27 billion shortfall, resulting in a devastating social cuts, and we are facing a $4 billion deficit for 2012-2013. Texas is in a budget crisis right now, and we simply just don't have money. The state's money should be used wisely, and energy efficiency, this bill is just not our priority. Funding for this bill will either force the government to raise taxes or take away from another department's funding. For example, K through 12 grade education was cut by $4 billion last year, and there was $5 billion of unpaid money owed to Medicaid. This could eventually lead to shutting down schools, letting teachers go, hiring tuition fees. If the legislature decides to pass this bill, they will be clearly ignoring the growth in Medicaid and growth in the number of school children in Texas. The other option to get funding for this bill would be hiring taxes. And this will eventually become a slippery slope situation because that would either risk business bankruptcy. It will take away money from employee wages for businesses to hire taxes, and bring about inadequate income because poor families will not be able to live on their income and poverty rates go up. At the end of the day, entrepreneurs are in the business environment to be successful and reap the benefits of profit for the risk of starting the business. Focusing on the impact of the environment rather than the company's bottom line is unacceptable. This bill is set to help the majority but tend to only hurt the people they set out to protect. We are not arguing that there shouldn't be any energy efficiency programs going on right now. It's not the way this bill is structured. Given the present problems incurred from the economy, and in my personal opinion, no further government oversight is needed because current things in place are sufficient considering the budget.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. In the honor of time, I think we need to just hear testimony and then ask questions after. So Senator Corona, please. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Senator Fisher, for holding this meeting today, and thank you all of the senators on the panel for being here. I'm speaking against the bill, and I'm a representative. My name is Susan Dawson, and I'm a representative from the Texas Coalition for Affordable Power. And let's start off by saying that I don't think anyone in this room is against energy efficiency. We know that there are billions of dollars to be saved, but if we implement effective and efficient ways of doing energy efficiency, our concerns with this bill here today is that it actually doesn't do anything to reduce the core problems with wasteful energy usage, especially as it pertains to the cap and trade program that is optional, but that is listed at the end of the bill. So we want, Ms. Molly to be able to plant a field of puppies and wildflowers just like anyone else, but we want to do it in a cost-effective way and in a way that actually solves the problem at its source. So one of the things that I want to point out is that rural residents actually use more energy than urban residents. They have a bigger carbon footprint. I know that Senator Estes and LT, your constituency is almost 50% rural. I know Senator Frazier, you have a significant rural population in your district. But a lot of the energy companies that operate in rural districts, they will find it more financially feasible to either just pay the fines associated with the carbon trading program, and because so many of them are publicly owned, it's very likely that they will engage in the program even though it's permissive. So they will most likely just either pay the fine or they will raise, and in some way or another, what's going to happen is that they will end up raising their energy prices for their consumers, because that's how energy efficiency policies work for these energy companies. They increase the rate of the energy in hopes that people will consume less energy to lower their bills. But if we're not providing consumers with actual steps to reduce energy in their day-to-day life, then we cannot really expect this bill to be successful. And research has shown that more effective than creating the website or creating this council would be to do things like offer tax credits, offer subsidies, and offer rebate programs where we work in conjunction with private entities to reach out to consumers directly and tell them this is how you can live a more clean, green lifestyle. Because there's nothing in this bill that actually will stop or teach consumers directly about what they can do in their day-to-day lifestyle. I know there's talk of a website, but there's a $500,000 cost associated with making that website and maintaining it. because we don't know, we're not actually taking steps to educate the public and educate consumers and to engage private entities in a conversation where they can start to facilitate this engagement with the community on their own basis. I feel like passing this legislation would be devastating not only to the consumers of Texas Energy, to Texas consumers of energy, but it's also going to be very hurtful for the power companies in Texas. We know that when Texas started deregulating its electric market, we saw a $15 billion cost deficit that is being passed down in the form of higher energy rates. And so that's something that we're dealing with right now, and we need to remember that, it's going to take a while for this deregulation to kind of pan out and for us to be able to get to stable energy rates. So taking any steps that are going to increase energy rates is going to be devastating to consumers, especially rural consumers. So unless you guys want, your constituency banging on your door saying my electric bill is way too high, you would be really advised to do more research, to find more information on what cost-effective ways we can take to implement energy efficiency before passing any sort of legislation. So I'm now open to questions if you have any.
Thank you so much, Ms. Dawson, for your suggestions and pointing down the trickle-down effect to consumers. We do not have any further questions. We will talk amongst ourselves. Senators, do you have any questions of each other? The clerk will call roll and we will take a vote.
Chairman Fraser,
I will not be voting. I will only vote for
Vice Chairperson Corona? Yes. Sorry. You just shouted out. Yay. Senator Elteef?
Nay.
Senator Estes? Yay. Senator Van Depew?
Yay. We have 3 yeas and 1 nay.